So you want to vlog your travels, but you don't know how to start. Well, I'm here to show you the ropes of filmmaking. And by filmmaking, I mean how I make my YouTube videos. And maybe you'll learn something. Let's go! Firstly, you'll need to have filming equipment. If you have money to buy a fancy vlogging camera, go ahead. It's nice, small, portable, has a fluffy mic on top, and you'll get nice and crispy footage. But I personally just like using my phone. Not only does it have 3 different lenses, but they're also pretty good for a phone. Why I prefer filming on my phone is because it's more accessible from my pocket and I can film more low-key. A tripod is a useful thing to have, but it's not necessary. This one I bought on Amazon for 15 euros and it works just like a 15-euro tripod would work. But when I don't have it standing around, I just tilt it on random objects and hopefully it turns out okay. Audio is 50% of your video experience, and if you're planning on extensively talking about things, then I would highly recommend getting some kind of mic. Nothing too fancy, a clip-on mic will do its job. Maybe you've seen some videos where they use a cube-shaped microphone. It's very good, but it's quite some money. Show, don't tell. When I film my travel content, I try and film in the moment. But I also like having filler footage, because sometimes you need something to fill in the space. Less is less and more is more. Plus, having some good-looking B-roll never hurt anyone. Most of the time my rule of thumb is to film something for at least 10 seconds, so you definitely have enough footage. Also try and experiment with different transitions or camera angles. Instead of filming something straight ahead, you can make it more dynamic by putting your camera closer to it. Another rule that is helpful to have and keep in mind is the rule of thirds. It is a composition guideline that places your subject on the left or right third of an image, leaving the other 2 thirds more open. I always have this grid activated on my phone so I can see where I'm placing the object, either on the side or in the middle. But when you're traveling, you should also know your limits and not have a camera duct taped to your hand 24/7. If you're taking a trip with your friends, you don't want to be that person that shoves a camera up their faces all the time. Unless you inform them beforehand that you have dreams of becoming a famous vlogger. A good storyteller often plans their scenes before they start to film. I sometimes have certain camera angles in mind, but most of the time I just go with the flow and try and explain what happens in the video by using a voiceover. For most of my videos, I write scripts. I write about what's happening, why am I doing this, and how I feel about it. Plus, I research some history or fun facts about the city and the names of buildings and sprinkle them in throughout the video. How I usually start scripting is I import the footage in my editing software and look at what I have and write about what I see. It depends on how much footage I have. It usually takes 1 to 3 days to write a whole script. After the script is done, it's time to do the voiceover. For the majority of my videos, I write each and every word that comes to my mind and each and every joke that pops into my head. And so for the voiceover, I just need to read it. But sometimes when I feel creative or just lazy, I write down a couple of bullet points and let the future Erica think of things to say when she's doing the voiceover. For the voiceovers, I just use this mic and the app that comes with my phone that records voiceovers. Next comes the most time-consuming part, which is editing. This is where all the magic happens, where 2 hours of footage become 12 minutes of content. For editing, I use Adobe Premiere Pro, and Adobe and I have a love-hate relationship. What can I say?
Why? Why?
There are plenty of YouTube tutorials explaining how to start working with Adobe Premiere Pro, so I will not be doing that today. Instead, I'll give you some useful tips that I learned along the way. First and foremost, organize your project and sort your footage. Well, not only will you have a nice workflow because everything has its place, but also if for whatever reason you needed that one thing from that old video, then it will be quite easy to find. How I organize my project is that I have many subfolders, such as assets, audio, exports, extra, which I think extra is the same as assets, but for some reason I just keep them separate. Files, footage, photos, just in case I have some photos. Thumbnail, titles for titles that I make, visual effects, and that's it. And then I also have my footage organized in subfolders in a chronological manner. If you ever studied a creative field, you have probably heard this phrase overused too many times, and that is to kill your darlings, which means deciding to cut off unnecessary sentences, storylines, or characters in a creative work. There have been many times in my videos that I had a really nice view, a joke or a punchline, but it needed too much context to be explained. So instead of keeping it in, I decided to just cut it off and never look back. What is great about editing is you can take something not so funny and make it funnier by adding visual effects, or at least make it less boring. I usually find some kind of effect in Premiere Pro, or I download some visual effects from YouTube. Do whatever feels right for you. When it comes to graphics like this, I usually use Adobe Illustrator to make these funny looking illustrations. Illustrator is like Photoshop, but with vector art. And vectors are an image that if you zoom in, it will not lose quality, unlike Photoshop that has pixel-based images. If you know Photoshop and you're planning on learning Illustrator, you will probably hate using Illustrator. And that's okay, because we all go through it and it gets better. You will learn how to love it. Adding some sound effects is something that goes unnoticed until you remove it. It makes the footage feel more lively and immersive. For example, if a random image pops up like this with a sound effect, and like this without. I think one of my favorite parts of editing is music. It can add so much to a scene. It can make it very tense, or very sad, or just salsa. My favorite music to use is Latin music, which is like salsa and tango. I also love using classical music, and I have this particular song that I really like, but I never get to use because it's just too intense. But maybe one day it will come. And please, for the love of whatever you believe in, level your music. I know that I'm not perfect, sometimes it's a bit too loud or a bit too quiet, but I have seen many videos where either you can't hear anything that I'm saying right now, or you've been talking like this, and then it just cuts to a song that's way too loud and your ears start to bleed. I can recommend royalty-free music subscriptions, but you have to pay for them. YouTube Music also exists, where you can download songs for free, but their search engine is really bad, and music, it takes a while to find something good. And finally, color grading. It takes your gray-looking, boring footage and makes it look way more aesthetically pleasing. Just like music, it can also set the scene, make it either nice and cozy or cinematic and intense. I'm still not sure about my color grading style, so I usually just experiment around. Recently, I've been liking these parameters. And technically you should color correct first and then color grade, but we're just making a little silly little YouTube video, so why would I waste my time doing that? Because it takes quite a while. For my editing, I usually take inspiration from other YouTubers such as Try Guys or Ted Nevison. Nevison? Or any other movie that has cool editing and has piqued my interest. In the beginning, you should copy people that you like, and then at some point you'll develop your own style and know what you like and what you don't like. My editing process takes from 3 days to 2 weeks. It really depends on how much footage I have. For example, my Hanover video took 2 weeks, and my Cochem video took 3 days because it was just a single day trip. But this is how I make videos. For some reason I try to make it harder for myself. If you're someone who's making more chill videos and talking to the camera and then showing some things around, it will probably take you way less time. But I do like my process, for some reason. Or you can just hire someone to do it for you and not worry about all the things that I just said. Then, after you're done with editing, all you need to do is make a thumbnail, if you're planning on uploading it on YouTube. I make my thumbnails in Photoshop. Of course, feel free to take inspiration from other content creators. However, don't copy it one-on-one. That just shows a great lack of sportsmanship, so shame on you. And finally, upload your video, give it a catchy title, write something in the description, and you're done. You can publish the video. Hopefully this helps and gives you an idea of how to make a vlog, and good luck!